Good morning, Albert. How are you?
Good morning, guys. How we doing?
We are doing awesome. We have moved on from the disaster that was Matt Eberflus as our head coach, and now 5 games left to go. What is your thought how desirable this job is?
Well, I mean, just so you guys know, I haven't really moved on from last weekend for different reasons, but yeah,
Yeah, your team's game plan sucked.
Oh, damn. Oh, God. You guys still want Ryan Day?
You can have him.
I love Ryan, but my God. So yeah, I think it sort of depends on what you're looking for, is the way I look at it. Right? Like, so, if it's a guy who just wants to come in and coach, then I think it is desirable. And I think there are a lot of things to like. You look at some of the talent that's on the roster now and the core of players, between, obviously Caleb at quarterback, but also like Darnell Wright, who I still think could be a foundation piece on the offensive line. And, Roma Dante is a really good young receiver. I don't know if Keenan Allen will be around next year, but DJ Moore is there. And then on defense, pieces like Jalen Johnson and Montez Sweat, you've got a foundation to build off of, no question. Now, I do think that the question is how much control do you want over the shaping of the rest of the roster? Because I think we all know there are still holes, and so if you're a guy who needs total control, I don't know that it's attractive, And I think so much of this comes down to how you view ownership, how you view, Ryan Poles and his front office, how you view all of that, and so, and really, I think it's still a lingering question. It's how much are you willing, and I don't know, was this asked yesterday? Because I thought this was the most important question, and I mean, forgive me if it was, because I didn't watch the whole press conference, but did anyone ask, are you willing to change your structure to attract the right coach? Did anybody ask that?
No,
they did not.
Okay, because I think don't you guys think that's a pretty major key?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if the right guy, whoever that is, let's assume that.
Let's say it's Mike Vrabel. Let's just say it's Mike Vrabel. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Mike Vrabel is going to have someone else's structure shoved down his throat. That's not based on any conversation I've had with him or anything else. But I just don't think Mike Vrabel is going to, sit there and say, yeah, whatever you need. Yes, you can make the decisions. After what he went through in Tennessee, I just don't think that's happening. He are you willing to adjust the way that you're set up right now to attract the right coach? I think it's a major question. I think it's an important question. And these things, I know they're maybe not the best sports radio talkers when you're going through a season like the Bears are going through right now, but who reports to who? Is on draft day, how much say does the coach have? Is the coaching staff going to be heavily involved in free agency? There are a lot of these sorts of questions that I think will color what sort of head coach you're going to be able to attract. And I think it is very. It's a prevalent one with a lot of these. It'll be a prevalent one with the Jets. It'll be a prevalent one with the Saints, where I think it's structure is really important to coaches, and how decision making goes is really important to coaches. And look, the reality is, if you look at a lot of the most successful franchises over the last 40 years in the NFL. A lot of them have head coaches who had a major say in personnel, right? Whether it's Jimmy Johnson in Dallas, Bill Belichick in New England, Bill Walsh in San Francisco. If you go back over the years and you look at the greatest sustained winners, you'll find that, and a lot of coaches really believe in it. And, there are obviously examples of doing it different ways in today's NFL. Philly's built an incredible roster, and they're very front office centric, right? So it can be done both ways. But I think if it's really about just finding the best coach, then my next question would be, okay, in attracting the best coach, how much flexibility are you going to have in the structure of your organization?
Albert, I told Kap that when we got the information about the mutiny that happened in the locker room after the Bears lost to Detroit, where Jalen Johnson and others just going off on Eberflus, and Eberflus had to be ushered out. It just reminded me of maybe some NBA locker rooms where you don't get NFL players face-to-face, jaw-to-jaw with the head coach. You might do it behind closed doors, but in front of everybody, I think it's the closest thing to the NBA that we've seen in which players really revolted and really made the difference in the firing of Matt Eberflus. How rare is that in the league?
Yeah, I think it's pretty rare. I mean, I'd say like a part of it too was just I think the players wanted accountability, and I think that there's a partnership there in the NFL where with all a player gives to go out there and play every week, right? Like everything that goes on into it mentally, physically, and the accountability that's demanded from them. I just feel like a lot of players, like in this day and age especially, feel like that should be a two-way street. So when something goes wrong or you screwed something up, you get up there and you say it and you fall on the sword for it. I think this is the fourth game like this, right? Like, so there's the game against the Packers.
Yeah.
There was the game against the Commanders. And then there was a game against the Vikings 4 days earlier where my understanding is he did apologize. Like Eberflus did fall on the sword in that case to the team. And so I think that was a step forward. And then 4 days later, I mean, just just an abortion of clock management. You know what I mean? At the end of that game, and I think his failure to fall on the sword in the immediate aftermath really cost him credibility in that locker room, and kind of pushed the players to that point of no return. So, I think the details here are important, and I do think that like level of accountability that's demanded from players, they expect that to be a two-way street. And in this case, it wasn't. And then, Eberflus had the opportunity to take more accountability in the post-game press conference. And I don't know about you guys. Matt's a good man and a good football coach, and I think he did a lot of good in 2.5 years there. But the way he spoke about the game-ending situation to me sounded almost like he was blaming Caleb Williams, which is another thing you really can't do. So, in the end, I think, like this, just the events of Thursday after the game, without question, put the powers that be, Ryan Poles, Kevin Warren, in a position where they almost had to do this, the McCaskies. And, I mean, that to me is why, like, I have so many questions about why they even went through with things on Friday the way that they did. I think they probably should have fired him on Thursday night.
Totally agree with you. And, there are people like, well, it was Thanksgiving. Who cares? You're getting $10 million to walk out the door. Stop.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. I mean, like, look, like, I think it's, what's worse, guys, is like, sending, like, the coaching staff into work on Friday morning,
Yeah.
Sending the coaching staff into work on Friday morning, like, with knowing they're getting the weekend off starting at noon, and making them go through, like, basically their entire day, and then with an hour to go, having, Eberflus himself come in and tell them that they've been let go. You know what I mean? Like, rather than giving them the morning to, like, reconfigure and reset under Thomas Brown, which they could have done if they had made this move Thursday night, they just, they took the morning, they threw it away. They put the organization in a position where everybody was going to have to find out via Twitter. Like, to me, guys, this is why, like, you don't need some offensive guru right now. I mean, it'd be nice to have one as part of the package, but I think the bigger thing you need now is a guy who's going to be a program leader, who's going to be able to change some of the things that have gone wrong, who's going to be able to come in there and tell some of the people there what they're doing wrong, And I wrote this on Monday. Like, it's why I would look at a Belichick or a Vrabel, because I don't think what you need right now is just somebody who's going to be coming in to develop one player, and you need something bigger than that.
So, in terms of a guy like Belichick, does he, he's got pictures of him in a fisherman outfit with his 23-year-old hot girlfriend in a mermaid outfit. Like, the 50-year-old Belichick signed me up. The 72-year-old guy who's out, wearing Taylor Swift gear with her. Like, does he have the energy to do this?
I think he does. I think he really wants to coach. And people who know him will tell you he's going to coach next year.
And would he give up personnel responsibility?
I think here's what I think. I think he would. I think if he trusted the personnel man who was in place the same way, like when Andy Reid went to Kansas City, right? And Ryan Poles was there for this. Okay, So this is something that Ryan Poles has actually witnessed with his own two eyes because he was there for this transition. When he went to Kansas City, Andy Reid didn't really want to do personnel anymore, right? Like in Philadelphia, he was in charge of everything, but he just wanted to go to Kansas City and coach. But he did want to have somebody who understood what he'd be looking for in players, who understood him, who he knew, who he trusted as his general manager. And that is where John Dorsey came into the picture and why Scott Pioli, who actually was the one who hired Ryan Poles in Kansas City in the first place, got pushed out. So, I think, if you're looking at attracting a Belichick, there are a million reasons to do it. I mean, having a culture change is, I think, a big part of it. I think maybe that he bring Josh McDaniels in. And I've said this to you, Cap, if Josh comes, the benefit of him is you're probably not going to lose him after a year or two the way you would another offensive coach if you hire a defensive head coach. Because I don't know that Josh is going to get a third shot at being a head coach. And Josh just worked. Josh made Mac Jones damn near the rookie of the year. If it hadn't been for Jamar Chase, he would have been the rookie of the year in 21. There's a lot of reasons to do it. The question then is okay, how much has to change to attract him to come? And that is, my question. That'd be my big question if I was Bill. Is what can you do to accommodate me from a front office standpoint? And then if I'm the Bears, my question is, okay, well, if we're going to hire you, we know you're not here for maybe even 5 years. So you got to help us out just as far as how you're going to set us up to win after you're gone. And so I think there are a lot of questions like that exist and that will exist. And it doesn't have to be Belichick either. I mean, look, Brian Flores is a name that I think could be a similar culture changer, and he was a teammate of Brian Poles at Boston College.
Right,
so
correct.
So there are other names out there, but I do think somebody I think Bill does make some sense for the Bears on a few different levels, and I do think he'd be attracted to the idea of going and breaking Don Shula's record with George Halas's franchise if the circumstances were right.
As always, we appreciate the time. Thanks for coming on, Albert.